This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review and Smackdown time yet again. I kind of wish we still had the rose gold version of the 12-inch MacBook in for review, but well, we still have our space gray one here, and this is a new kid on the block. This is the HP Spectre. Shockingly good looking, in your face good looking, a little bit more bold attempt to catch the eye than, say, the MacBook. Both good looking in different ways, but more important than just that is how functional are they and what kind of laptop you need. We're going to look at them now. Okay, two undeniably gorgeous laptops in kind of different ways. Understated, look at the Mac. Apple always does understated design. I don't think they'd ever put something like gold or, like HP calls them, copper highlight strips here, but both very nice looking. Both have a matte kind of finish. The HP does pick up fingerprints a bit more. The Mac, not so much, no matter which of the four colors you get it. And of course, the Mac is available in space gray, which this is, your traditional silver, gold, or rose gold, which is really pink. And the HP, at least for now, this is the only color scheme that's available. They're both light. The Mac weighs 2 pounds. The HP weighs 2.45 pounds. Looking at the difference in the footprint here, you can tell that they have different screen sizes. The Mac has a 12-inch display versus the HP with a 13.3-inch display, which is your typical Ultrabook resolution. So some people might find 12 inches just a little too small. You know, 13.3 is pretty much everybody's low end of acceptable comfort zone. It's a pretty popular size. So that's something to keep in mind if you can actually get a hold of the Mac in store, which shouldn't be too hard. See how that screen size suits you. Of course, it's smaller, so it's easier to hold it closer, all that sort of thing, so it might not seem as teeny. Here's the difference in footprint. What I like about the 12-inch MacBook is it's so small. It's like carrying a 9.7-inch iPad around. You just want to take it everywhere, and I mean everywhere. I won't go into details. You get the idea. It's just easy. And it's not just because it's light, it's because it has a small footprint. So that's the upside of the small display size. The HP, certainly compared to most laptops, feels amazingly thin and amazingly light. And the thinness does make it feel more portable. It really is the new slip it in the manila envelope kind of design. Of course, it still has the normal Ultrabook footprint this way and this way, so it's not going to save you any space in your bag that way or wow you in that respect. But the upside is you get that normal size display on it. Next important difference is the Mac uses the Intel Core series of CPUs, Core M that is. So lower power, fanless CPUs. This will never make any noise other than the sound coming from the speakers. No fans, no sound, no nothing. Gets warm on the bottom, not burning hot, around human body temperature. The HP has Intel Core i5 and i7 CPUs, so that's considerably more powerful. They're dual-core Ultrabook CPUs. They're not quad-core powerhouses like the Dell XPS 15, but this is as capable as any Ultrabook. It has two fans. HP put two fans in there to try to improve the cooling since it's so skinny and to keep it relatively quiet, because two fans that aren't running like vacuum cleaners are quieter than one is the idea. It's also about the same temperature on the bottom. Gets warm, not hot. Around human body temperature, you will hear the fans. Not so much if you're doing something like Word, Excel, or streaming Netflix, but if you plug it into AC power that generates heat, you'll hear the fans coming on just because you plugged it into power. If you're doing something more strenuous like video editing, you'll hear the fans come on. The upside is it is more powerful for things like video editing. Apple does fight back though, because Final Cut Pro is so optimized for OS X and for Apple's hardware that it's surprisingly usable actually on this little 12-inch MacBook. Now, Adobe Premiere Pro on this MacBook, I would not want to do it, honestly, folks. Really, it doesn't feel fast. Both of these have 8 gigs of RAM inside, and they're available with either two 56 gig PCIe NVMe SSDs, that's the new faster kind of SSD, or 512 gig is optional. Our HP is cheaper, not surprisingly, because, well, Apple usually tends to be a bit more expensive for hardware, and HP does have greater scale of manufacturing than Apple when it comes to laptops. So the HP starts at $1169 for that Core i5 model with 8 gigs of RAM, a 256 gig SSD, and our Mac sells for $1299 for the lowly Core M3, which is actually adequate for most everyday productivity use on the Mac. 8 gigs of RAM and the 256 gig SSD. Both have dual band Wi-Fi, 802.11ac, and Bluetooth as well. So the HP is the horsepower and performance winner there. Core i5 and i7 certainly beat the Core M, but again, if you're doing just productivity tasks, like I said, Word, Excel, that's not going to make a difference. It's when you're trying to do things like play games. Games are not the greatest experience on the 12-inch MacBook. On the HP, it's still an Ultrabook. It's not a gaming laptop, but you can play older games like BioShock Infinite on it, and certainly casual games. Now, opening them up, you can see the design philosophies move even further apart. The HP is a kind of modern minimalism combined with, well, bling. And the Mac is just about minimalism with a giant trackpad here. Trackpad, Apple's trackpads, everybody knows at this point, they just tend to win. And the HP's is pretty darn good too. That Mac's is even bigger. It has Force Touch. And much as I don't mind using the HP trackpad, I like it, I have to say the Apple does have the better trackpad. But you're not suffering with the HP. Keyboards. I know some of you get along with this keyboard. I'm not one of them. I mean, I would love to have this laptop, but I write a lot, and I have never, ever, as much as I've tried, gotten used to this keyboard. It uses the butterfly kind of switches. There's almost no travel on it. There's a little tactile click, certainly with each key. The HP has a more normal and traditional keyboard. It has 1.3 millimeters of key travel, which is the same as the Dell XPS and other really skinny Ultrabooks. It too has a very precise and clicky feel that I really like, the HP. So for me, because I just can't get along with this keyboard too, I would have to say, and I think a lot of people are that way, they just find this a little bit odd, this keyboard, I would say the HP wins. Now, if you're one of those people who's tried out the MacBook's keyboard and you love it, well, there it is. Then it's the one for you. Both of these are backlit. Displays. Got the same desktop picture running on both of these, and they are both at max brightness. Max brightness for our MacBook is 335 nits measured. For the HP, it is 312 nits. So Mac's a little bit brighter, but not super far off there. They both have similar contrast, approaching 1,000 to 1. They both have just about the same color gamut, too. Full sRGB coverage on 80% of Adobe RGB or so. I love them both, honestly. Both of them, I open them and I say, oh, that display is nice. You're going to get more pixels and greater pixel density on the MacBook, in part because, well, it is 12 inches. So you're squeezing those pixels into a smaller area. It has a 2304 by 1440 resolution display, a pretty oddball resolution there, versus 1920 by 1080 on the HP. Both glossy, neither of them have touchscreens. So you're getting, around 300 or so pixels in either dimension greater on the Mac. Combine that with the smaller display size, and it has 226 ppi versus 165 for the HP. Both of those are actually reasonably pleasingly high, and I think 4K displays on tiny laptops is just really, there's no point to it, honestly. They're both very good displays. The HP fights back with being a larger display, which is something that I appreciate. I call it a competitive wash, honestly. How about audio? Well, the 12-inch MacBook is the audio wonder here. For such a teeny thing, it has really loud and full audio, and the speaker grill is up top right here, so it's not muffled by the desk, but it's shocking how good it sounds. It sounds better than most 13-inch Ultrabooks on the market. The HP has Bang & Olufsen audio, and they always partner with somebody good for their audio, and their speakers are typically, they're okay. This is not as bad as some that were truly anemic sounding, and it has quad stereo speakers, which means two little guys on this side, two on the other side, so also facing up and at you. And it's typical of a 13.3-inch Ultrabook. We're not having a penalty here for it being so skinny, but it's okay. It gets reasonably loud, not very full sounding. Headphone audio, I would give the edge to the HP, though. The 12-inch MacBook, for me, just doesn't sound quite as good as, say, the MacBook Pro audio, or the HP, for that matter. So the MacBook has an infamous webcam, shall we say, because it's only 480p resolution. Everybody hoped that the second gen would get bumped up, but it didn't. So video quality, if you're Skyping or FaceTiming, it's, not great. The HP has your typical 720p webcam, which is to say it's decent. It's better than the 480p one. It's still not going to rock somebody's world like your 5-megapixel front-facing smartphone camera or something like that, but it is better. Both of them have fine built-in microphone audio pickup. Then there's that other issue about the 12-inch MacBook. It has one port only for wired connectivity to anything, including the charger, your USB-C 3.1 Gen 1 port, which is basically the same spec as regular USB 3.0. It handles charging, and the included charger plugs in there, and it handles anything else. You can get dongle adapters for displays, for regular USB ports, for card readers, all that sort of thing. And pretty soon you're going to be using a splitter on it, and that can be problematic for those of you who are trying to use this as a something closer to a desktop replacement, and you actually want to plug a bunch of stuff into it, like a monitor. You can plug a 4K display into the 12-inch MacBook. It will do 4K at 30 hertz refresh rate. The HP is the smart kid on the block here. It has 3 USB-C 3.1 Gen 2 ports, so that's 10 gigabit per second versus 5 gigabit per second on the Mac. And 2 of them do Thunderbolt 3. Also, even faster connection speeds, even more versatility down the road. There's not a lot of Thunderbolt 3 peripherals out there yet. It has a single USB-C 3.1 Gen 2 port right here that you can use for connectivity, but that one's also used for charging. It has a USB-C charger as well. You could interchange these chargers if you wish to. So for those of you who need to plug in a couple of things, that's nice. Also, HP includes this USB-C to regular USB 3.0 dongle adapter in the box, something that Apple charges around $20 for, just so you can plug in your standard USB hard drive or flash drive. Apple has dongle adapters. They have an $80 multifunction adapter for their Mac that gives you HDMI and USB and so on. And there's all sorts of adapters on the market that'll work for both of these. You can spend less, actually, and Dell has one that works fine on the HP. If you want to get Ethernet, USB 3.0, and HDMI going all at once. So for connectivity, HP, big win, obviously there. It's still, both of these are a little bit of a pain in the neck because they don't have legacy ports other than their headphone jacks. So you're going to be looking for these little USB-C adapters for all of your existing hardware, be it a monitor, a hard drive, a flash drive, an SD card reader. You get the idea. No SD card slot on either of these. Sorry. So battery life, both manufacturers claim 9 hours of, say, web browsing sort of use. Apple is generally pretty accurate with their claims. PC manufacturers are generally wildly optimistic. So with the MacBook, I find that actually it has more variable battery life than the typical Apple laptop. Sometimes I get 7 hours, sometimes I get 8 hours. Once in a while, I really do get 9. A lot of it depends on how bright you set the display. It's clearly a big power drain. Also, it may have to do with the Intel Core M CPU. It has a very low base clock rate, but it boosts an awful lot, which is why it doesn't seem as slow as it is. It may have a 1.1 gigahertz base clock rate, but it can boost up there like 2 gigahertz, and you get the idea. It's going to be consuming more power. So it probably depends on how much time it's spending in boost, which is not always as predictable as you might think. HP, they say 9 hours. I find pretty much consistently it's 6 hours. So the Mac is doing better, averaging somewhere from 7 to 9, really a lot of the time somewhere between 7 and 8. So you're getting, say, an hour to 2 hours better on the MacBook. So how about ruggedness? Both of these guys are very rigid. I would not want to drop either one of these on my foot. The Mac is aluminum alloy, as always, very rigid, pretty durable. For a little thing like that that's very light and very thin, it's pretty darn strong. It doesn't flex, anything like that. The HP is made of a mix of materials. We have copper, we have carbon fiber, top and bottom, and on the top and on the keyboard deck, it's coated with an anodized aluminum. It also feels very rigid. The bottom is just straight carbon fiber. However, it still is not something you would want to drop on your foot. It's pretty darn strong. But if I was going to throw both of these across the street on bet the one that would probably survive the best, it probably would be the Mac. This one's a tough contest here, but I would say overall, I feel like the HP wins. If you're OS agnostic or you're happy running both operating systems, you just get more ports, a bigger display, a more normal keyboard. It's really, HP has done a very good job, and the price actually comes in a little bit under the 12-inch MacBook. So there you have it, the 12-inch MacBook at 2016 and the HP Spectre. I want them both. I mean, who wouldn't, right? Obviously, for some people, aesthetics are going to lean towards one or the other. In terms of horsepower, obviously the HP is the stronger laptop. Also in terms of connectivity, it just has more ports. That makes a difference. But the MacBook fights back with not just being the perfect laptop for somebody who loves Mac OS X and is looking for something really portable, but it's so darn small. It's just so easy to take anywhere. It's sort of like a 9.7-inch iPad. You just want to pick it up, take it everywhere with you. It's pretty easy. Whereas this has a pretty normal footprint. So psychologically, even though there's not much weight difference between them, you feel like you're taking a laptop with this one still, no matter how light and thin it is. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to watch our video reviews of each of these products, read our written reviews, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos.